everyone. Thank you for coming to this lesson. Today we are going to explore sustainable tourism in one of the world's most iconic natural landmarks, Yellowstone National Park in the USA. We will dive into the park's environmental significance, challenges it faces, and how sustainable tourism can help preserve its beauty for future generations. Before we begin, let me share the key takeaways from today's presentation. By the end of this session, you will be able to define sustainable tourism, understand the differences between sustainable tourism and ecotourism, and also explore the geography of Yellowstone and how it became so attractive to tourists around the world. We will give an overview of the U.S. National Park system, its strengths and weaknesses, and challenges and opportunities. Then we dive into sustainable tourism practice in Yellowstone and some of the social, economic, and environmental challenges it faces and how it can contribute to sustainable tourist development and enrichment of the local community. So the first topic, what exactly is sustainable tourism and relates to it, ecotourism? We look at some of the definitions. Critical concept in today's world. It's part of the larger framework of sustainable development, which refers to development that meets the need of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This concept, introduced by the World Commission on Environment and Development in 1987, focuses on three key pillars: environmental sustainability, economic and social sustainability. When we talk specifically about sustainable tourism, the idea is similar. The aim is to meet the needs of tourists and host regions today while also ensuring we protect and enhance opportunities for generations. Sustainable tourism requires that we manage all resources in such a way that economic, social, and aesthetic needs are met while maintaining cultural integrity, ecological balance, and biodiversity. On the other hand, ecotourism is very similar, a branch of sustainable tourism that places an even stronger focus on conservation and respect for local communities. It's all about minimizing the negative impacts of tourism on the natural worlds while maximizing the benefits for both ecosystems and local populations. Ecotourism encourages us to travel responsibly by reducing our environmental footprint and contributing to the well-being of the destinations we visit. This can be achieved through actions such as limiting the environmental impact of our visit, our carbon footprint, actively supporting conservation activities, and respecting the local cultures. For instance, visitors can engage in activities like participating in eco-friendly tours, local activities, education, support local conservation programs, and learning about and respecting the tradition and lifestyle of local communities. This slide shows some of the key comparisons between sustainable tourism and ecotourism across various criteria. The first one is focus. Sustainable tourism focuses on balancing economic, social, and environmental needs. Ecotourism focuses more specifically on environmental conservation and benefit for local community. The second one is scope. Sustainable tourism has a broad scope, aiming to make all types of tourism sustainable, including urban, mass tourism, and so on. On the other hand, ecotourism is more niche, emphasizing natural-based tourism in protected areas. The differences also lie on core principles. Sustainable tourism integrates long-term planning to manage resources and ensure future sustainability. Ecotourism is about low-impact travel, conservation, and respecting local community. The target audience are not the same. Sustainable tourism aims at a wider audience, including both mass tourism and niche tourism. Ecotourism generally appeals to natural assets and those interested in environmental tourism. Cultural integration. Sustainable tourism seeks to preserve cultural integrity while promoting economic growth. Ecotourism emphasizes respecting local cultures and often supports small-scale, community-based tourism. The examples of sustainable tourism include urban tourism, cultural tours, resorts adopting sustainable practices. Ecotourism involves wildlife watching, guided natural hikes, and visiting conservation areas in natural settings. First of all, some basic knowledge about the geography of Yellowstone. Mostly in Wyoming, but extends into Montana and Idaho. It is famous for being the world's first national park and covers about 2.2 million acres. The park sits on a volcanic hotspot, giving it a unique landscape. Yellowstone's main attractions include Yellowstone caldera, one of the largest active volcanic systems, and the famous old-face geyser, which erupts regularly. The park also has geothermal features like hot springs, rivers, lakes, and vast mountain ranges. It's also home to many wild species, including grizzly bears, wolves, elk, bison, and moose. Yellowstone's diverse geography supports these animals, with stunning scenery that includes forests, meadows, and towering mountains. Like the Abrasiroka and the Beatus Ranges, Yellowstone offers many opportunities for tourists to explore. Its boundary overlap between three different states. Yellowstone forms the core of the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, which comprises approximately 18 million acres of land, encompassing portions of Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho. Yellowstone's geographic significance, including one of the most geographically dynamic areas on Earth due to a shallow source of magma and resulting volcanic activities, and more than 10,000 hydrothermal features, including approximately 500 geysers, the largest concentration of geysers in the world, and there are conservatively more than 55% of the world's geysers reside in Yellowstone. The park was declared an International Biosphere Reserve in 1976 and a World Heritage Site in 1978. So what are the tourism status of the Yellowstone National Park? Yellowstone offers a diverse range of tourism experiences, attracting visitors with various interests and preferences. The most popular types of tourism in Yellowstone can be classified into several categories, each highlighting different aspects of the park's natural and cultural heritage. Tourism in Yellowstone comes in many forms. The first one is a geotourism. People come to visit and seeking to experience the park's wildlife and landscape, the old geothermal features, and the volcanic activities. And there are plenty opportunities to do adventure tourism, including, for example, hiking, camping, and many more. Nature and wildlife tourism in Yellowstone is another paralleled feature in this natural beauty. There are abundant wildlife features make it a haven for natural enthusiasts and wildlife lovers. Visitors engage in activities such as hiking, wildlife watching, birding, and photography, seeking encounters with iconic species like bison, grizzly bear, wolf, and so on. The park's diverse ecosystems, including forests, meadows, rivers, and the geothermal features provide a rich tapestry for nature-based experience. Outdoor recreation and adventure is abundant in Yellowstone. There are a plethora of outdoor recreation activities for adventure enthusiasts. This could include backpacking, camping, fishing, boating, horseback riding, and snowshoeing. Allow visitors to engage with the park's vast wilderness, river, and trails. Scenic landscapes. The park's stunning landscapes include the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, with its dramatic waterfalls, as well as Yellowstone Lake, one of the largest high-elevation lakes in North America. Visitors can also explore dense forests, open meadows, and towering mountain range. There are abundant natural and wildlife tourism activities. Visitors can come to experience Yellowstone's rich biodiversity and natural beauty. Wildlife safaris, bird watching, and hiking are very popular activities. The parks also offers abundant opportunity for outdoor recreation and particularly winter snowboarding, snowshoeing, and fishing and boating as a winter tourism. Wildlife viewing is another very key feature of the activities. This could include watching geothermal eruptions, wildlife, and towering mountains in the valleys. There are also accompanying educational and interpretive tourism that takes place that helping to provide educational programs to tourists and children from schools. They can participate in ranger-led programs, attend informative talks, workshops, and visit visitor centers and museums in order to deepen their understanding about this park. Another key feature of Yellowstone tourism is cultural tourism. Yellowstone had been the traditional home for many Native Americans. This is cultural and historical tourism. Yellowstone cultural and historical importance range from Native American history and park exploration sites visit. The famous sites include the Old Faithful Inn and the Mammoth Hot Spring Hotel, offer insights into the park's heritage. There are currently 26 Indian tribes that are still associated with Yellowstone National Park. There are also over 900 historical buildings located in Yellowstone. In terms of numbers of visitors per year coming to Yellowstone, about 4 million tourists visit Yellowstone National Park each year. From 2015 to 2019, Yellowstone National Park consistently attracted over 4 million visitors annually. However, in 2020, recreational visits to Yellowstone National Park dropped to 3.81 million due to global travel restrictions. But the Yellowstone Park experienced its highest number of visits in 2021, reaching 4.86 million recorded entrance, despite 20% fewer campsites and hotel rooms due to the pandemic and construction. The number in 2022 decreased to 3.29 million. In 2023, the park saw an increase in visitors, reaching 4.5 million, showing a return to higher visitation levels and representing a 36.7% increase from the previous year, generating an estimated income of 630 million to the local economy. The tourism industry in Yellowstone contributes significantly to the regional economy, generating over 550 million visitors each year approximately. Tourists spend an average of 500 million each year. In 2017, the figure was about 400 million and rose to over 500 in 2018. In 2027, visitor spend at Yellowstone was 450 million, a 28.3% decrease from the previous year. This comes from the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. In Yellowstone 2020, the park witnessed a decrease in visitor numbers to approximately 95% of the 2019 figure, which is a significant drop. The park bounced back remarkably in 2021. Tourists come from different countries. Majority of them come from domestic sources. There are also international tourists. International tourists account for about 15% of the total visitation. In 2018, before the pandemic, Yellowstone welcomed numerous international visitors, with the largest group coming from China, reaching 149,000. This was followed by visitors from European countries, including Germany, France, and Switzerland. Canada also contributed a considerable number of visitors as a neighbor country. How popular is Yellowstone National Park? Yellowstone National Park is one of the most visited national parks in the United States. So the most visited national park in the United States in 2023 was Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And this list showing the different visitations and the rank of the national parks in the United States. Yellowstone National Park is number 4 in 2023. When is the best time to visit Yellowstone? The peak tourist season in Yellowstone typically occurs during the summer months from June and August, when visitors are the highest. The trend starts from May and decreases from September. The best time to visit can range from May to October. During this period, the weather is generally mild and the park is less crowded compared to the peak summer months. In terms of transportation, the majority of visitors to Yellowstone arrive by private vehicle, with the park's road network providing access to various attractions and points of interest. The closest airport is Yellowstone Airport in West Yellowstone, Montana, which is open seasonally. Other nearby airports including Jackson Hole Airport, Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport, and Cody Yellowstone Regional Airport. Tourists can also drive to the destination with easy road access. And there are plenty of restaurants and hotels in Yellowstone offer different food and beverage options. Here we can watch a video about National Park Service in Yellowstone. Here I introduce some key information about U.S. National Park system. Yellowstone established in 1872, which is the first national park in the world. So it paved the way for the U.S. National Park system, which now includes over 400 sites. These parks are crucial for preserving the natural and cultural heritage of the U.S., but with growing visitor numbers, sustainability has become an essential challenge. Strictly speaking, definition of national park refers to a natural area designated by the government to protect the ecological integrity of one or more ecosystems for present and future generations. The first U.S. national park is Yellowstone National Park in 1872. This was based on Washburn expedition in 1870. The idea comes from the expedition. These people included in the expedition are YNP Lanford, the first national park superintendent. Decision made around a campfire to protect the area for public enjoyment. The beginning of the national park is established 1872. This is considered a milestone in U.S. environmental history and including environmental legislation and organization preserved during peak environmental exploitation. Yellowstone National Park Act, signed by President Grant on March 1, 1872, stated the park would be reserved for public benefits and enjoyment, with protections for natural wonders. And this created the foundation of the U.S. National Park system. The U.S. National Park system encompasses these key areas. The first, there are numerous national parks, monuments and battlefields, historical sites. These are all managed by the National Park Service, NPS, which was established in 1916 to protect and manage the growing number of national parks and monuments. This organization played a very key role in conservation, public education, and provided recreational opportunity across the country. It also worked in partnership with private companies in collaboration to offer services and protection. The NPS Commercial Service Program also manages nearly 500 concession contracts. Concessionaires are critical partners generating over $1 billion annually. Another aspect from the national park is sustainability and performance evaluation. NPS monitor concessionaire services to avoid adverse park impacts. Sustainability is a key consideration throughout concession planning and operations. 6 program areas are evaluated: administrative compliance, operational performance, public health, risk management, environmental management, and asset management. The challenges are increasing environmental change and the mass tourism impact. This increased park visitation and limited resource make sustainable management a big challenge. The sites of NPS include 500 park sites today, including a variety of natural and historical sites. Most widely used system, and it received 273 million recreation visits. There are also signs of crowding in recent decades. National Wildlife Refuge is another type of U.S. Federation protected area system of national refuge began in 1903. Fish and Wildlife Service, another administered refuge with management ranging from preservation to active manipulation of habits and populations. The popularity of national park has increased dramatically. In 2016 alone, there were over 330 million visits. The national parks organizational chart, it starts from the top management group director who controls various departments, including Comptroller, Office of Policy and Regulation, Social Aid to the Director, Office of Communication and Public Welfare, Office to Legislative and Congressional Affairs. The tourism industry plays a key role in regional economy, but also conservation effort. As one of the most iconic and renowned national park in the world, Yellowstone has a greater role to play in generating economy partnership with local business people and educate tourists and serve local community. Overall, there are numerous benefits that comes from tourism. These include substantial contributions to the local economy. Each year, millions of tourists spend on accommodation, dining, recreational activities, and generate job opportunities to support local business in the local communities. However, tourism also presents challenges. High visit numbers encountered in the recent decades, particularly during the summer peak seasons, constrain the park's infrastructure, leading to overcrowding situation and traffic congestions and increased waste. This can be very damaging to the park's fragile ecosystem, particularly the wildlife and natural beauty, as well as the geothermal features. They are very vulnerable to human disturbances. Managing the balance between the tourism arrivals and the conservation is a priority for NPS management. With the sustainable tourism practice play a key role and a key direction in preserving the parks vulnerable ecosystem for future generations to use. And to summarize those positive impacts, the economic contributions, including serving the local business and providing jobs, there are also cultural exchange. Tourism in Yellowstone facilitates cultural exchange between visitors and local communities. Visitors can gain deeper appreciation for the cultural heritage of the region, particularly the Indian history, tradition, and native Indian customers. The interaction can foster cross-cultural understanding between international establishments as well. There are also possible education to help to understand the environmental benefits. Tourism in Yellowstone can increase environmental awareness and conservation efforts to many of the visitors. Visitors often develop a great appreciation after they come to visit the natural beauty and ecological significance. Negative impact is increasing in recent decades as well. The first one, congestion and overcrowding. The popularity of Yellowstone as a tourist destination can lead to overcrowding during peak seasons. Managing the visitor flows and implementing visitor capacity limits management are important strategy to mitigate this impact. Another key negative impact is the disturbance to wildlife. Increased tourism in Yellowstone can disrupt wildlife behavior and habitat. Wildlife may become habituated to human presence, impacting their natural behavior and potentially creating conflict. Strict regulation and education campaigns are necessary to minimize this disturbance and protect the wildlife habitats. There are also signs of environmental degradation. The high volume of visitors can lead to environmental degradation in certain areas of the park. Food traffic, improper waste disposal, and off-trail hiking can result in soil erosion, vegetation damage, and water pollution. Implementing and enforcing responsible tourism practice, such designated trail and waste management system, are essential to mitigate this problem. Cultural impacts. The influx of tourism can potentially affect the cultural integrity of local communities, particularly those Indian communities who still live in relatively underdeveloped conditions. Over commercialization and the commodification of cultural heritage may dilute traditional practices and erode the authenticity of the local culture. Engaging local communities in decision-making process and promoting sustainable tourism practices that respect cultural values is very essential. So infrastructure pressure comes over tourism. The demand for tourism infrastructure, such as accommodation, transportation, and visitor facilities, can put a huge pressure on the park's natural resources and landscapes. These need careful planning and capacity limits and capacity study in order to understand how sustainable approaches can be implemented in order to ensure that infrastructure development is compatible with parks' conservation goals. And there is finally a very significant impact comes from climate change. Key changes included reduced snowfall. This happens in recent decades, which affects water levels and river volumes and some of the winter sports, leading to fluctuations in water temperature and pressure that harm aquatic life. Additionally, vegetation patterns are changing, and increased temperature combined with shifting precipitation are negatively affecting plant and animal life. Forest fires, which are expected to become more frequent due to climate change, could further threaten the park's ecosystem. The growing human population, needless to say, is compounding those problems as more people bring in additional environmental pressure and pollution. If these trends continue, Yellowstone faces significant unsustainability, and urgent measures are needed to address those situations. The climate is a significant issue that impacting highly in the last 50 years. Since 1960, the climate can greatly alter ecosystem. Temperature changes, which is higher than it was 50 years ago. Another issue is invasive species. Bark beetles have savaged Yellowstone pine trees, as well as many other western trees. Microscopic parasites render cutthroat trout to now fed. Normally, the parasite originated in Europe and somehow ended up in Yellowstone Park, and where the cutthroat trouts are native. There are also impacts on indigenous community as a cultural format. Before Yellowstone National Park was created, several indigenous communities lived on this land, such as the Shoshone, Lakota, Crow, Blackfoot, Flathead, and so on. Indigenous communities were not consulted during the creation of the national park and were forcibly removed from their lands. This displacement followed a pattern seen during colonialism, driven by ideas of preservation and manifest destination. Indigenous people were moved to reserves which prohibited traditional practices like hunting, gathering, and burning. The establishment of Yellowstone National Park erased the social history of Native American land use from the park's narrative. Indigenous people were later reintegrated into the park, primarily as entertainers or artisans for tourists, not as key cultural figures, or back to their original authentic way of living. Also, there have been efforts to reconcile this history through co-management policies. These policies are often poorly implemented in practice, and with limited human understanding to compounding these negative effects. More cooperation and communication between YNP management and indigenous community is needed in order to ensure law and policy are properly applied and problems are reduced or mitigated. There are many winter tourism taking place in Yellowstone, so some can create different types of problems. For example, impacts to resources, air pollution, wildlife disturbance, and soundscape. There are also impacts to experience, conflicting depreciative behavior, impacts on facilities and infrastructure, such as attraction trails and transportation. Over-tourism in Yellowstone become a very significant problems increasingly in recent years. These include impacts to natural resources such as air, wildlife, soundscape, and also impacts to experience such as conflicting tourism activities, overcrowding, and depreciative behavior. There are also tensions and stress on facilities and road services, attraction sites, and trails. These photos show a crowd waiting to ascend the Half Dome in Yosemite National Park, demonstrating the seriousness of this over-tourism impact. Road traffic and congestion are another serious problems in Yellowstone because it add pressures to the road traffic as well as sending emission and carbon footprint in the environment. Depreciative behavior from tourists due to over-tourism could be very damaging to the ecosystem, particularly to the wildlife. Here shows passengers and tourists taking selfies at random places and very much disturbing the natural habitat and the routine way of life of the wildlife. To sum up, the key challenges of tourism in Yellowstone including balancing visit numbers with conservation. Yellowstone's allure attracts millions annually, but this popularity comes with challenges and a cost. High visitor numbers can strain the park's resources and potentially harm its delicate ecosystem. Then implementing quotas could be a method that address this challenge. By limiting the number of visitors during peak seasons can ensure minimal environmental impact. Another method is promoting off-peak visits, encouraging travel during less popular months and distribute the visitor load more evenly across the whole year. Addressing the impact of climate change could be more challenging. Yellowstone's diverse biodiversity and geothermal features are threatened. Some challenge including challenging to the wildlife patterns. As temperatures rise, animals might migrate to cooler areas, affecting the park's ecological balance. There are also altered geothermal activities because increased temperatures can influence the park's geysers and hot springs eruption regularity. Ensuring sustainable infrastructure development is another key factor that could be addressed. As visitor numbers grow, so does the need for infrastructure. However, unchecked development can harm the park's environmental aspects, including something in terms of the infrastructure could be established like eco-friendly facilities or limiting expansion using quotas, managing human-wildlife conflicts, as we've seen in tourists having really close encounter with wildlife, and further training and education. Finally, monitoring and performance appraisal. So let's dive into the heart of our discussion, sustainable tourism in Yellowstone. The park attracts millions of visitors each year, creating economic benefits for local communities, but also putting a strain on the environment. So how do we do this to balance tourism with preservation? The park authority have noticed many of the negative aspects, and many sustainable initiatives have been developed in order to mitigate the negative impacts of tourism. The initiatives, as we mentioned earlier as well, including establishing YNP committee with sustainable leadership, accompanied with visitor education packages. Park rangers and guides offer educational programs to raise awareness about the importance of conservation and responsible behavior in the park. There are also many controlled areas and accessibility being established. Certain parts of the park, especially during sensitive seasons or peak seasons, have controlled access to reduce human impact on wildlife and ecosystem. There are also many other green practices and tactics that helping to develop sustainable practices, including concessionaires within the park using sustainable practices such as energy efficient accommodations, waste reduction programs, and eco-friendly transportation options. So in terms of the partnership, collaborates with the public and the private partners are quite essential because of the initiatives and funding-oriented objectives. This can help further expand and understanding awareness as well and promote sustainable tourism and apply different ethnic business principles in this national park. Since the government does not have experience in running a major tourism business such as a hotel, the private hospitality companies and so on, so operating within the national park do not typically understand the intricacy of how to conduct preservation and support local business and reach a delicate balance. The U.S. national park's dual mission of conservation and enjoyment exemplifies the concept of partnership in sustainable tourism. So this shows another list of organizations that involved Yellowstone protection. These organizations are mainly those volcanical scientific research and funding support organizations, including both public and NGOs, such as the USGS and Yellowstone National Park, as well as seismology and active tectonic research groups and universities, and some plant and biodiversity observatories. National wildlife preservation system in the U.S., including Yellowstone National Park. Wilderness areas are areas of underdeveloped federal land that retain their primitive character and influence without permanent improvements or human habitation, which are protected and managed through natural conditions. These areas are established as part of the National Wilderness Preservation System according to the Wilderness Act of 1964. They are owned or administered by the Bureau of Land Management, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Department of Agricultural Forest Service, or the National Park Service. Environmental conservation covers many different areas. This could include water conservation, energy conservation, fleet and transportation traffic control, recycling and waste diversion, and even dark and noise control, because the dark sky and the importance of dark sky is very important to many of the wildlife. Another key aspect in environmental conservation in Yellowstone is about individual tourists. Every individual who steps into Yellowstone has a part to play in its preservation. As visitors, the actions, no matter how insignificant they can be, could have a profound impact on the park's environment. So there are a couple of initiatives that have been developed by the park authorities. This could include stick to the designated trails for the tourists, not adventure out from these designated trails. And when they visit the park, they are recommended to plan ahead and prepare, research their routes, and also look into the regulations and weather conditions and so on. Travel camp on durable surfaces and dispose waste properly. There are also possible initiatives related to using eco-friendly transports whenever possible, such as the usage of electric vehicles, and to educate children and other fellow visitors. In essence, every visitor to Yellowstone has the opportunity to be an ambassador for the park, championing its values and playing an important role in its enduring legacy. Particularly, the park's transportation goals and objectives are minimize environmental impacts from operational vehicle use. So reduce fossil fuel consumption for the use of fleet vehicles from quality controlled and less emission products, and also minimize environmental impacts from visitor transportations. This could be implementing more public transport, where feasible, shuttles or transit system to popular destinations throughout the park, surrounding communities, as well as the airport, and design and implement pedestrian-friendly transit-oriented improvements in developed areas. Identify and apply best practices in sustainability for road sign construction and maintenance. Work with surrounding communities and agencies to implement strategies and programs for sustainable road and trails within and beyond the park. And finally, communicate the importance of fuel conservation to inspire visitors and employees to reduce greenhouse gas emission caused by vehicle use. Water management is another key area. Solid water management and recycling are very essential that could divert mining waste from disposable in landfill by composting, reusing, and recycling program, and recycle large quantity of water waste. Recycle all used automobile batteries or other things, tire, and so on. The national park had started a very aggressive recycling program and encourage and with incentive as well as disciplinary procedure to help visitors to promote their recycling behavior. Certification and awards is an important aspect that can motivate and monitor the green behavior of different stakeholders. The national park has got a green seal lodging certificate and also Yellowstone environmental management system with ISO 14001 certification. There are also Energy Star Partner certificate, as well as TripAdvisor, a very widely used online booking and online review platform to showcase the green behavior of different hotels and tourism business. The future of sustainable tourism in YNP. Innovations in sustainable tourism is a key. The world of tourism is ever-changing and evolving, and Yellowstone is at the forefront of integrating innovative sustainable practice. Some of this we mentioned earlier could cover ecologies and sustainable hospitality practices. Green transportation, collaborative efforts between park and different stakeholders, including hotels or tour operators, training and educational program, including school and research institutions with shared resources. Working with international partners and joining some certification programs that can help to develop very innovative advanced ecotourism models and improve the eco-branding of this destination. That's it for the teaching. We have got a couple of group tasks and homework suggestions that teachers in this lesson could adopt. This including one group work to design a Yellowstone National Park brochure with templates suggested here. Another group task is design and create a Yellow Park poster relates to sustainable development. So there are a couple of topics, for example, fair management and tourism, and also geothermal sites and impact of the environment and tourism. Different resources are suggested. Teacher advice are given as well in this exercise. So in conclusion, the key takeaways of this lesson include Sustainable tourism is key to preserving Yellowstone Park for future generations. The lasting impact of responsible tourism is going to benefit the future generations. Conducting ecotourism or green tourism, sustainable tourism, when practiced with mindfulness and respect, leaves an indelible mark not just on the environment but also on the hearts and minds of visitors. Yellowstone, with its vast landscape and diverse ecosystems, serves as a living testament to the power of responsible tourism. By choosing to treat lightly, visitors ensure that park's wonders remain unspoiled for future generations. Thank you for your time and attention today. I hope this presentation has given you an interesting understanding and insights about sustainable tourism in Yellowstone and many parts of the world. I'd like that if you have, you can click link and send message to me. And don't forget to click subscription button so you can come for more information to come. See you next time.